Hey guys, we're talking all about the Real Housewives of New York, Season 8, Episode 13, Steel Calzones. You don't want to miss it. Stay tuned.
Tuning into the destination for TV superfan discussion, AfterBuzz TV. And now, let the buzz begin.
Oh, like a big pizza pie, that's amore.
We had to have some sort of Dean Martin-esque, well, it's Dean Martin, but beautiful Italian song all about pizza, since the first part of this episode of Real Housewives of New York was all about pizza.
I am hungry for some pizza. Do you know about Joe's Pizza out in Santa Monica? It's like the best, most East Coast New York type pizza I've found out here. So good.
Well, do you prefer pizza or a calzone?
Pizza, now that I saw what Jules puts in her calzones.
Hey everyone, we are here obviously talking about the Real Housewives of New York, one of our favorite shows, obviously, thanks to all the fabulous ladies and beautiful drama that we get to see week after week. My name is Lyndsey Wegner. You guys can find me on Twitter at Lyndsey Wegner, and tonight I am joined by Megan Stecher.
Hi guys, it is Megan Stecher, and you can tweet me at Megan Stecher. It's MEGANSTECHER. And Ashley and Fern both couldn't be here. Ashley's at home. Hi Ash. I'm visiting her family in the Boston area, and Fern had some work stuff, so it's the two of us holding it down.
And getting really into this episode that we had today.
Yes, I like the way it started out a lot.
All right, yeah, let's talk a little bit about what your initial impressions of this episode. You said you had watched the preview that they gave, so you were prepared for this craziness.
Yes. So as soon as you got here, I was like, I saw the first 10 minutes. It's psycho. So yes, I watched First Look over the weekend because my DVR tapes it, and I guess just the name, Real Housewives of New York comes up, it automatically tapes, and I usually try to hold off watching it, but I had a real itch to watch it the other day, so I did, and I really did think that Jules had snuck her prescription painkillers into the calzone, and that was the big surprise to be revealed after the commercial breaks.
Thank goodness that was not the case.
I mean, what's more damaging, accidentally taking a Percocet or cutting your mouth on some steel? I mean, what is she thinking?
Well, like Bethany or Carol said, it's like we're doing surgery over here. I'm actually allergic. Well, I had a bad experience with Percocet when I got my tonsils taken out years ago.
Yeah. Okay.
And I was hallucinating things, so me taking a Percocet would be cray-cray.
I mean, me on Percocet, I had them once for getting my wisdom teeth out in college, and within 10 minutes, I would be super loopy and dead asleep for hours. So, I mean, if she was on them at that dinner, which Dorinda was saying maybe she was, and drinking the wine, I mean, I would have been dead asleep on the table 5 minutes after I accidentally ate it. So
well, that and the lidocaine and the Adderall and then drinking on top of it all. I mean,
this was a dicey scene. I feel like they made light of it, but there was a lot of shit going on.
And a very kind of serious issue.
Yeah.
They usually say to not drink when you take prescription medication.
Correct.
I mean, if you're going to go out and have a drink, I don't necessarily think that that's a bad thing. But if you're on all of these medications and then you're drinking multiple glasses of champagne.
I didn't even pay attention to what she was drinking or if she was drinking, but Dorinda had suggested it in her interview portion. So I think that's in my mind. I was thinking she was drinking while being on the painkillers for the vagina injury, which is still, there's so many comedic things, and they're trying to keep it light and funny with funny music and funny haha, but it's heavy stuff because the women are accusing her of having an eating disorder, even though she's claiming she's past it. And Carole won't let up on the Adderall prescription, and it was a lot.
Well, this first part of the episode takes place in this pizza place where they're going to have some sort of pizza party. They're going to make pizzas together, kind of bond, have a little girls' night. Jules has forgotten her pillow that she's been bringing with her because of her vagina situation.
Her vaginal laceration, should we call it?
Which, as soon as Bethany arrived, showed her pictures of it.
I mean, she couldn't wait to one-up Bethany's non-cancerous tumors, and then with her
I'm sorry, Bethany's is way worse. There is no one like
no
for sure. But
competition. Well, to be honest, Jules is actually a vaginal injury, shall we say?
Yes.
And Bethany's is a internal female organs issue. But it was kind of funny when they were making light of all the vaginal issues going on
that are going on around these housewives. And Ramona arrives dressed to the nines because she's got a girls' night at Maestro's or whatever, but everyone's saying she has a date. And then we kind of get a little softer moment with Bethany, mentioning that she's really appreciative of the support that Dorinda has been giving her, and that, we all know that Bethany doesn't have her parents around, so she doesn't really have anybody to kind of take care of her. And Dorinda took that place, which was really, really nice. But tell me what you thought of her backhanded comment about Jules. It was a good thing that Jules wasn't there.
I think the issue is that Bethany thinks Jules knows about herself. Like, oh, I have a hard time forming a good sentence, or oh, I have a hard time getting my thoughts out. And I think that Bethany thinks Jules can take a joke like that because Jules knows that's a trait of herself. But Bethany is harsh when she does make these cracks.
It's still insulting.
And it's not, her humor isn't for everyone, and I think she doesn't care that her humor is not for everyone. So Jules is thinking like, sometimes I have a hard time getting a sentence out, but I'm not stupid, and you're constantly insinuating that I'm stupid. So...
But sitting and watching her struggle trying to get out something, and then, Bethany saying, you need a verb, get to the verb.
Right.
I mean, it is kind of painful to watch.
Right.
Because either you're nervous and you have a problem getting the words out, or you really just have an issue.
Right. Well, and maybe all Bethany meant was, it's a good thing I didn't bring you, because if I asked you what the doctor said because I was in such a state of shock that I didn't remember, you wouldn't have been able to tell me because you can never get the words out. Maybe that's what she meant. But she's these little cracks that she's making on Jules. They do seem to insinuate that Jules is less than smart, and it's something she touched on her radio show today. And
well, Jules also, I'm surprised that she even remembers this after telling us that she's been taking lidocaine and Percocet and Adderall, and she's making jokes with Carole that she's going to put this in the pizza. And meanwhile, we see the measuring cup sitting in the pizza, and everyone's making their pizzas. Carole's got one. She's got one that has vegan cheese. She's like, there's no meat on it. You can eat it. And we see Jules kind of struggling even to take that first bite of the pizza, and then mentioning wanting a cigarette and needing to go outside for a cigarette, and then the women kind of talking that this is a sign of an eating disorder, anything to kind of put off eating and delay it from happening or having something come up or whatever it is. And Carole and Jules do have a conversation about, her taking the Adderall and Adderall making you thinner, and what Jules weighs. And Jules says she's like, I think, I don't know, I don't look when I'm there, but I would guess about 115. And the women are saying there's no way she weighs more than 95 pounds. Now, on TV, the camera adds 10 pounds, whatever it is. She's tall. 115 to me would make sense that she could weigh that, but I mean, that, and that would still be very, very thin for how tall she is. I mean, and she is obviously thin, but when you see someone in person and you can kind of gauge, well, I weigh this and I'm looking at you and you're 6 inches taller than me and thinner than me. Okay, there's no way.
Right. I was kind of feeling for Jules in this scene, in that I felt that Carole was taking it too far with the constant questions and little jokes. And it's like, at least Carole kept it private between the two of them while all this was going on. But it is kind of annoying for Carole to be picking at her. Obviously, if she's going through an eating disorder, why would you want to keep picking at her and being like, I see what's going on here. Why are you doing that? Why are you doing this? It's like, that's not going to make her stop having her eating disorder by pointing it out every 5 seconds to her. And it really, it's very obvious to me as a viewer that she is going through it currently. No matter what Jules says, I do think she is currently going through a struggle, because watching her do the thing where she had to take a few deep breaths before she took a bite, and it was because Carole was forcing her to eat it. It was kind of like she was going to pick around and not eat anything. And I don't know. I think Carole had the best intentions, but it was so hard to watch Jules's tics, I should call it, like her food obsessions.
I can only imagine, you know, I know that Ashley has a little bit of experience with this since her sister has had an eating disorder. I can only imagine that this is something that you struggle with your entire life.
Of course, exactly.
Because it technically is an obsession. I mean, I'm a little bit OCD with things and numbers and stuff like that. And that at times can almost, I'm like, oh my gosh, just do it. Like you hear what your mind is thinking and you stop yourself from doing something, like going back upstairs to check that I locked my door even though I was already out to the street, and having that obsession, feeling like I have to do it. This is even worse because it's completely in your mind.
And I think whereas like if you are classified as an alcoholic, of course it's something you struggle with for your whole life, but alcohol is something you should stay away from in that case. In this case, you have to eat, you know, I'm sure it's 3 times a day, whatever doctors think now. I don't know, 6 small meals, 3 times a day, whatever it is. Like, you have to eat to live. And for that to be your struggle, God, has that got to be the hardest thing. It's got to be just so painful.
And this is something that I think for her is going to be difficult, especially now being on a television show when you're scrutinized even more, for the better, for the worse. People saying she's too thin. You know, most of the time women hear about they need to lose weight, and this is the opposite case, which doesn't make it any easier for her. She mentions, Jules does mention that she's seeing a therapist, and sometimes she doesn't really know what to talk about. But I think that people that do kind of, you know, do the therapy route, figure out what works for them. If it's once a month or it's once a week or once every other week, to find out you want to come in and have something to talk about, to have something that you can work on each week. And maybe twice a week is too much, or especially if she's seeing a therapist and a psychiatrist, because someone's prescribing drugs. Exactly.
So I think that was another red flag thing for Carole, because she's like, well, now you're seeing 2 different people. Are they both prescribing stuff? Do they both not know about each other? Da, 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 da. And I thought it was interesting that Jules was saying, I don't even have anything to talk about, but I just go anyway. I don't have anything. It's like, well, actually you do right now, because you've been telling everybody how much things are not that great with Michael at home, and because of, you know, if you have a responsibility to be outside of the home for any reason, Michael's freaking out on you for not taking care of the kids in this way or that way, or shouldn't they be taking a bath or get the kids some milk, and he's not helping. And she's very stressed out right now from, you know, she's having her alopecia, stress alopecia issues. Like, there is stuff going on, and for her to say like, oh, I go every week but I don't miss anything, like, it's just was so many red flags in this scene for me with her. I just felt awful.
Sure. And we'll get in more into that when we talk about her and Dorinda. But before we get there, we have Carole at Bryant Park, who goes skating with one of our favorite housewives, Heather, who's back with Jonathan and Adam. They all go ice skating. And Carole kind of admits that she's having a hard time working on this book with Adam. And, you know, Heather says, well, there are artistic differences. Maybe you guys need to get back in the kitchen, use some whipped cream, come up with some recipes like that. When you're working closely with somebody that you are in a relationship with, and coming from Carole, who already has written a book and is successful in that way, I can imagine perhaps being a little bit more wanting to take over.
Of course. I feel like we saw that in a scene where they were talking back and forth from different rooms, and she was like, yeah, I got it, like, in a smart ass way, you know.
Do you think that when do you think this, has the book come out?
Not that I know of.
Not yet.
The Reluctant Vegan is the title she's speaking
and it hasn't
about.
come out.
I'll Google it really quick here and see.
And she does mention, Carole does talk a little bit with Heather about Jules and how she's new, and how, you know, even Heather had said Bethany told her, but she seems like a nice girl and everything, but does mention the issue with the eating disorder and the measuring cups and utensils being in there, and that being a way to stop them from eating it, because you basically ruin your food, which I do know from doing some research years ago and writing a couple papers on this through high school and college, that people they'll throw a soda or something on whatever they're eating so that it stops them from eating it, or whatever they have to kind of ruin
I've heard
it.
of stewing salt, yeah.
Did you find out if it's released yet?
Can you buy Carole Radziwill's vegan cookbook from Real Housewives. Oh, sorry, guys, the internet. Oh,
So slow.
wait for the page to load. I'll get back to you.
Or let us know by using the hashtag ABTV, as I say,
RHONY.
Supernatural, for my other show. I'm so used to saying it. Sorry, guys. ABTV, RHONY, Real Houses of New York. So Jules and Dorinda, they're hanging out at Jules's house, and they're talking a little bit about Bethany, and Jules is bothered by the fact that Bethany didn't want her at the doctor. So we're kind of coming back from this first initial conversation when they had the pizza together and saying this really bothered her. And she also and Dorinda says, well, maybe you need to be more cheeky with them. Have a little bit more, not have a backbone, but kind of come back at them with something sometimes. It doesn't mean you need to be mean. But have a backbone, be a little snarky. I don't think there's anything wrong with being snarky. I know I'm snarky sometimes. Might get me in trouble too. But Jules kind of breaks down and says that no one takes care of her. And Michael wasn't there for her when this whole situation happened. And in her interview, she says, it would be nice if I had a partner. This is heartbreaking, and I don't know if we're seeing more of this now because of knowing they're getting divorced, and so all of his stuff now is being edited in.
Right.
Or if this is how she's been feeling from the beginning. But what do you think about this?
See, what upsets me about this scene is, like, I don't know if Jules' marriage drama on the show is kind of faked and brought up because she already knew her marriage was ending. Like, that is what I'm like, ugh, is this real? Is this not? Because according to Bethany, current present time, she knew that they were already on the outs and planning to divorce before they even started filming. And it's like, well, if they already knew they were going to be getting a divorce, then saying like, oh, I feel like I don't have a partner, and Michael's, not nice to me this time and that time, and this happened, and he didn't even pick up his phone when I bruised my vagina, and he came.
Well, that would be why he didn't then.
It's like, well, then, this is kind of fake then, if we're talking about, so I don't know what's true and what's false. Bethany's kind of like the trumpeter of truth, and I kind of want to lean toward this is kind of fake. I think she was going through privately the divorce struggle and pretending she wasn't for the camera. So whenever she's upset and there's crying, I think that's kind of at the root of it, is knowing like, I'm getting divorced. Shit. What am I going to do next? Hopefully this TV show thing works out.
Well, Bethany heads to the doctor for a little pre-op, and she's talking about her fibroids and how her uterus is doubled in size, and it's called a myomectomy, is what she's getting correct.
Or myomectomy?
Myomectomy.
Something like that.
Sorry. And Kevin, her driver, has kind of become like somebody, she says she becomes very close with the people that she works with. And you can definitely tell because he's kind of calming her down and helping her through this. And we see it later on too. She's really, really stressed about this. This is a bigger deal than they thought that it would be, and we'll get more into that when we come back after the pre-op. But Sonja is cleaning out her townhouse's basement. And Dorinda's helping because Dorinda has also been cleaning her place too, and mentions how hard it is to throw stuff out and get rid of things. And this is, Sonja mentions, it's hard for me to get rid of these things, not only because it's attached to her daughter, but it's also because it's attached to her ex and the idea of a family.
Now, see, I thought this was extremely poignant scene because I've always thought her house looks like such a mess. Like there's a lot of pack rat issues going on, right, in the bedroom and the bathroom where she's often in the house. And I always thought like, oh, isn't it weird when old ladies get all kooky and they don't want to let go of all their stuff? And I'm the opposite. I'm a Bethany. Like I come into a room and I'm like, I can't breathe. Get this crap out of here.
You need to come to my apartment, please.
But
Help me.
The problem is, and you see it with Sonja so textbook clear, it's all this stuff is attached to really great memories. So Sonja is, I think, definitely still not over a divorce that happened a very long time ago, and a time when she had like the fairy tale. She had this man who was beyond wealthy, so she would never have to worry again. And I think Sonja, in listening to her story, was a bit of a gold digger. So she got like the ultimate dream of hers. She found like the most rich possible person she could. She married him. She had the kid. Like everything was great. The kid's adorable. And then it all fell apart. And I think that she's never recovered from that. And that's why you see her living in like the old lady pack rat style in that townhouse. That's why she can't get rid of like a ratty old hairdryer from the 70s. It's like, no, the past was so great, and I've been through so many terrible things in the past few years as far as like the bankruptcy and all her like weird like bad business decisions. And so now I get it. Now, like when people like, I can't even watch hoarders because I feel like I would have a panic attack watching people hoard stuff. And I get it. It's a very like emotional, psychological issue for them.
Well, I mean, because I'm the type of person that keeps everything, and then I will eventually go through things. And a couple years ago, I went through my closet and I got rid of like over 100 items of clothes.
Yeah.
And I'd been going and buying hangers and hangers for new clothes, and I got rid of all his clothes, and all of a sudden I had all these hangers that I filled. I have a problem. Seriously, I do. But, Dorinda makes a really good point, and this is kind of, I actually started this so that I can go home maybe and potentially do this, but if you had to walk away from everything you have right now, what would you grab before you had to leave? Because those are the things to keep. You don't need the hairdryer. You don't need the stuffed animals. I mean, if you want to keep one of something, like I would be sad if I didn't have some of the stuffed animals that I had when I was a baby, because I would like to eventually hand those down to my children too.
I have my baby blanket, which is like my only sentimental thing.
Certain little things are, I know if I had to get out of my apartment, there would be certain I would do it real quickly, certain articles of clothing, specific jewelry, photo albums, my laptop, like there's certain things that I would specifically grab and put in a bag and be like, okay, I have 5 minutes. This is what I'm grabbing.
Exactly. So I think maybe that's a good way to declutter an apartment. Okay, let me think of like 10 things I would absolutely have to grab in a fire. Everything else is like fair game to go into Goodwill,
Yeah.
I really thought the curtains was hilarious, where she was like, no, let these curtains go. Someone in Queens is waiting for these. And I just love how they just like trash Queens all the time on the show. And I'm like, oh, but the people in Queens are not happy about that. But they might love it.
Here's the thing that I side with Sonja though, is because I would think, well, what if I wash this? I could fix this. I could use it again.
Yeah.
Or that dress that no longer fits, or the jeans that I had when I had, was a little bit heavier, but I'm like, well, just in case I gain weight again.
Right.
I don't want to gain weight again, but I'm keeping them just in case I do. Or the real skinny jeans that I had when I was like super low in weight. And I'm like, well, what if I fit in them again?
Yeah.
They look that's my crazy thought process.
I mean, that's the struggle with getting rid of anything, right? Is like, but if I need this again. So my whole new philosophy on, I think I was raised that way, like my mom is that way. And I'm like, honestly, I get this high from getting rid of stuff. So like getting rid of stuff feels better than keeping it.
And some people are like that.
Yeah.
What's your sign?
I'm a Sagittarius.
You're Sagittarius. I'm a Gemini. We should
you're struggling, right? The twins.
It's this constant struggle. OCD. I do seriously have OCD. We do. Sonja does mention that she has texted Bethany, and then after Bethany went into the surgery, she sent flowers, and Bethany had said this was not necessary. So it seems like she's trying to mend fences, even if nothing is completely fixed yet. At least Sonja's on the path to trying to get something back to normal, even though she wants to keep Tipsy Girl. This is where I got a little bit emotional with Bethany's situation. As soon as she says she needs to figure out if she has a living will or a medical proxy. This is major surgery. It's obviously worse than they thought that it was going to be. And she can't call her mom when this would be the time to call her mom, because this is something that's super duper hard for her, because if you're going through this is who you want to talk to.
Right.
And if you guys don't know, I lost my mom in December. So seeing this was just, I would feel the same way. I go through certain things and I'm like, I wish I could just call her and have her be there. And she always watched the show, and occasionally she'd comment and stuff, and she was so cute. It was the most wonderful thing ever. But I felt her pain going through that. I felt her pain going through that, and that's why she called Terry one of her best friends. We've seen Terry from Bethany getting married, you know, from the beginning. Terry has been one of her closest and best friends. And hearing Terry say, "Do you want me to come there? I'll be there right now." That is the type of friend that you can only hope and wish for. And I literally feel so lucky that I have so many wonderful friends that dropped everything, and how great everyone has been. But to go through this, and what her biggest fear is that Bryn's going to have to live with Jason and his family.
That broke my heart when I saw her crying over that. She said if she would have to be with them all the time, that would be my worst nightmare. And that made me really sad that she feels that way about them. Like, because Jason did have like a really strong, ridiculously strong family bond from what we saw from her show, Bethany Getting Married. And the thought that it's her nightmare for Bryn to be with them. And I think she's projecting her situation with Jason onto maybe the way he'd be with Bryn, which I don't probably isn't the case.
I mean, as far as we could tell from watching the show, Jason's a good dad, and he does have such a strong family bond. And if anything, she may not like him and want to be with him, but I don't know if she's saying that he's not a good dad, but you want that strong family bond. That is the most important thing that you could have. Yeah. So maybe it's an insecurity that she's, like you said, projecting because of her family that she doesn't want happening to Bryn. But if Bryn has Jason, I don't think she has anything to worry about, thankfully.
Right. And we know that she's come through the surgery fine. So
she is good. Okay. There was, but to have to go through that and make that decision for this living will, and knowing, you know, she has to decide if during the surgery she's starting to lose blood, she may have to, they may have to get rid of her uterus.
It's terrifying. Like, I can't even imagine having a kid and being like, oh my God, if I don't wake up from this surgery that I absolutely have to have, my kid, like, I wouldn't want to leave them alone in this world. Like, I'm their mother. Like, I just can't imagine how awful she felt at that moment. I mean, I remember getting my first job out of college, and you have to go and meet with HR, and you sign all that paperwork for 2 hours. And I had never done that before. I'm like all of 22 or 23 years old, and having like a 50-year-old guy who's like completely overweight sitting there staring at me like, yeah, anyway, let's read over this part. In case of death and dismemberment, your family will be given X amount of money, and and I'm like thinking like, I'm going to be sitting at a computer. Why am I going to have death and dismemberment? Like, and just like have full panic attack mode. I literally had an anxiety attack that night. And I mean, to have the responsibilities on her shoulders that she has, and be told like, you need a will, this is a big deal. And to think about Bryn, I'm sure, like, I completely understand her crying.
Of course.
And the weird thing to me was last week on Watch What Happens Live, she was the guest, and they previewed that scene, and she's like, I'm really embarrassed now that I got so upset over having to have this surgery. And I'm thinking like, why?
Oh no.
Not when you're presented with that deck of cards. No.
Absolutely not. And I mean, that feeling of being lonely, that's what she mentioned earlier with Dorinda, and how it was nice to have supportive friends. Yeah. And it's very clear that Dorinda really is a good friend. Right. We see her making and forging relationships with a lot of the housewives this season, even the housewives that are on the outs, like Sonja, trying to make it work with them or bring them back in and make them not feel left out. I really think of Dorinda as a really good friend, and it shows why her and Ramona have been friends for 20 years. And if their friendship breaks up, it's not Dorinda's fault. Right. It's Ramona's fault.
Dorinda just doesn't give up on people.
No.
And she's also not a shit stirrer.
No, she's not. Yeah. It was really, really nice to see that. So let's get to a little bit more, some other stuff. So LuAnn has thrown a little party, and Jules and Michael are there. Sonja, LuAnn mentions that things are progressing with Tom. There's an engagement to the engagement, basically, because they've already been talking about getting engaged.
I'm so glad you said that. I'm like, she could not wait to be like, we're looking at rings, and we're going to get engaged, and we're talking about getting engaged.
I don't know about you, but I'm the type of person that doesn't want to jinx that stuff, and I certainly would not mention it, because that's the first thing I did was I looked on her Instagram, and I was like, are they even still together? And yes, they are. You said that they've got their wedding planned for
New Year's Eve. Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously they're still together. I don't know how long it's going to last. I feel really sad saying that, because
this is a big
publicity
stunt. I mean, even if he does want to marry her, it's like she talks about this way too much, and they got together so fast. I mean, everybody, like, that's all anybody ever talks about when she brings him up. They're like rolling their eyes like, this is ridiculous. So if all of them think that, we can't be wrong either.
It's the constant thing when you see somebody posting on Facebook or Instagram. Look at how happy we are.
It's like something's off. Yeah.
You know something's not right if you're posting something every single day or twice a day about you and your relationship. Yes. And I'm all about for being happy. Let's be happy.
Yeah.
But the best parts of my life don't always make it to social media.
Right. It's like they're good enough as they are, and they don't have to be publicized. So, something's off. It's like, we all have a sixth sense about it. Just watching it on TV. Sure. So who knows, what people who actually know her are like, no, this is ridiculous.
And as I predicted next week, LuAnn mentions having a little get together, and the ladies going on a vacation to Palm Beach. Yes. And I said, it's got to be LuAnn that plans this trip, because that way all the women can go.
Great
and it can be the best drama that happens, because we love when the ladies go on vacation. Ramona arrives. Victoria's there too. Victoria is more accepting of Tom, where she said that Noel is not, her son is not so about it right now. And something I've really noticed a lot, especially in the last few episodes, Ramona being the mediator this season.
Yes, she really is loving that role this season.
And she's usually not that person.
No, it's been nice to have her not be a Ramona coaster.
She definitely plays both sides sometimes, especially when they were at Dorinda's house. When it was Dorinda's birthday, when she was going between Bethany and LuAnn and Carole and kind of like being the little puppet master, I would say. But she still was playing the mediator.
Yeah.
I mean, so
she's back to doing it tonight for sure.
She pulls LuAnn aside and tells her that she's on the outs with Bethany and Carole. What a way to put somebody on the defensive right away.
Well, I thought it was funny how she said, well, I thought Sonja was going to be the outsider with everyone, but right now it's actually fine. It's actually you. It's like, oh boy, here we go.
Here we go. Because LuAnn's not going to like that.
Ramona's super tender way of approaching the subject.
And Ramona mentions that LuAnn should have just made plans directly with Carole versus inviting her to this group activity, even though LuAnn is very frustrated that both Carole and Bethany both did not RSVP, which was very Countess-like. And I was like, yes, Countess moment.
It was very rude of him to not RSVP. Did you watch LuAnn's special?
I didn't. I don't know why it didn't tape, but
was amazing. She has had the most fantastical life. I don't have the best opinion of her now after watching it.
Oh.
I think it lended itself to...
Interesting.
Okay, I'm going to say my impression of her, and I'm going to be blunt and not sugarcoat it. She really just slept her way to getting to what she wanted throughout her whole life.
Oh.
I do want to say I think she was really, really in love with her husband, but it was also this very, like, she left another man that she lived with. Like, that guy was, like, away on business, and she, like, met her husband, called her boyfriend at the time to be like, sorry, I met someone else, like, ran away with the man that became her husband, the Count, and got married, like eloped in New York City, and then just showed up at her parents' house like, this is my new husband you haven't met. I mean, just was very like, wow, okay. Like, her life was very soap opera-like.
But they were obviously together for a long time, had 2 children, so it wasn't like something that, what I think with Tom right now, this is going to be this momentary lapse where it's going to last a year or 2 and then be done with.
Right. Like, she's just so excited she landed her, she got her vagina to land herself a millionaire, and she thinks she's going to be taken care of again. And I feel like it's her, like, gold digger side, where she just keeps sleeping her way into, like, having this fabulous life.
Well, the last part that we see of, I do need to go back, obviously, and watch this LuAnn special.
So good. You have to watch it.
The last part of this episode shows Jules kind of complaining about everyone. And obviously, this is a sensitive topic for her, this eating disorder, food and weight issues. And this is really, really starting to bother her because it keeps getting brought up.
But Ramona... All I wrote down is like, Ramona rolled her eyes. Like, Ramona's like, really? Was it that bad? When Ramona doesn't want to care about something, she's not so nice about it.
She just makes it known. You've got some gossip for us, so...
Oh my God. Okay.
Share it with all of us.
If you're not... Oh, here we go. If you're not listening to Bethany's radio show on Sirius, you ought to get yourself a Sirius radio subscription. I just feel like she just spills the dirt every week, because basically she'll talk for a few minutes in the beginning and then for the entire rest of the 2 hours just take phone calls from people. So half the time it's like she'll lead the conversation in one direction and people will call in with their opinions on that, and it's always about relationship crap. And the other half the time, it's people calling in with, well, you said this and you did that, and I'm wondering how this is going now, currently, when we saw this conflict on the show, but how's it going now? And today someone asked, I was so excited, someone asked about, please explain when you were saying last week on Watch What Happens Live that you knew Jules was getting divorced before she even started taping the season. And she said, well, yeah, as much as Dorinda keeps saying on the show, she keeps playing it up like, I'm Jules's friend and I got her, she's my friend, and that's how she got brought into this group. Bethany's like, no, I knew her. I had her at my home more than once, her and her husband, and I really got her cast on the show. And she's like, as much as Dorinda knows her and is friends with her too, like, I really pushed to get her cast on the show. She's like, I'm not saying I'm good at it. I got Aviva cast on the show too, and you guys saw how that worked out. But she's like, but I made the push, I made the call, and she's like, people did tell me, we know plenty of mutual people and a couple that we know mutually told me that they were planning to get a divorce. And she's like, now, and the person said something like, do you feel this was like a gift to her from Michael, as far as like, go try to get famous and do your own thing because I am leaving you and you need something? And she said, well, I would liken it to the Kelsey Grammer, Camille Grammer situation.
Okay.
And I was like, wow, like mind blowing. She also mentioned she wanted to confirm what Page Six was writing the other day, that Jason is now out of the apartment they shared together, but that which she actually owned. I guess he's finally been court ordered out of there. It's back to her having it, and she said she walked in with a real estate agent and her assistant and expected it to be a very joyous moment, because it had just been so long of like, all I need is for this to be over, all I need is for this like apartment to be given back to me, like that was my apartment. It was like that thing she was holding on to with the divorce, like that was like the big point of contention, and she thought it would be a joyous occasion, and it was a full meltdown for her. She said she was just hit with all the feelings of like terrible memories of things that happened there, and just fell apart, hysterical crying. She's like, I've been crying so much the past few days. So another reason she said she had been crying the past few days was she actually called her mother after 15 years of not speaking. She said it came about because her daughter was asking her a lot of questions about, mommy, do you have a mommy and a daddy? Are they alive? And she said, well, my mommy is still alive. And Bryn's like, I want to meet her. And Bethany, I think, thinking back to the issues with her father passing away, like, if I don't deal with my issues now and she were to, like, God forbid, pass away, I'd be a basket case the rest of my life. It's all these unresolved issues. She's like, so I called my mom, and I also called my stepdad, and we're kind of trying to put together a trip for Bryn to meet them. And so I was like, wow. There's a lot of like momentous stuff going on in Bethany's life personally right now.
Lots of news and gossip there. Thanks, Megan.
Good stuff.
Holy cow.
I was like, I don't even care what's being written about in the papers right now, because like she just puts the real deal all out there.
She just tells you, like you said, she's honest. She's the truth trumpeter. So if she's saying about Jules knowing that she was going through that divorce, well, I was never a huge Jules fan. That toned itself down, but that might put it back up there. Let's talk a little bit about some predictions for next week. Since
your AfterBuzz TV predictions.
LuAnn, maybe she kind of likes being on the outs. And Sonja mentions that her and Tom have been friends with benefits for 10 years. And LuAnn gets real pissed about this because I think she's finally had enough of everyone kind of talking crap about it, and says, everyone else in my life is happy for me except you B-words. Witches. And
Rhymes
she's
with witches.
is very, very upset about this. I'm looking so forward to seeing that dinner.
Me too.
And this is going to be, I believe, on the precipice of them going on vacation. So this will create lots of tension for everybody. I'm sure it's going to get brought up again. We also get Bethany mentioning her surgery and Jules mentioning her surgery and getting things back there down to a normal pistachio. Megan, do you have any predictions for us?
Gosh. I think the only thing that's really sticking out to me for next week is this scene where I'm dying for Sonja. I'm so excited we're going to see Sonja tell her in front of everyone that she's been sleeping with her man for 10 years as a friends with benefits situation, because I was thinking, like, she's got to tell LuAnn. We've got to see the reaction or know, like, what LuAnn thinks of this. Why haven't we seen this yet? Why hasn't Sonja told her yet? Like, so I'm dying to see this scene. And there's two LuAnns. There's the LuAnn that storms away to not keep getting upset in front of everyone. And then there's the LuAnn who acts like it doesn't bother her, but she will sit there and fight it out and not storm away. Like, she's been really good about that this season. Like, everyone is going toe to toe with her, and she just sits there like, "Why is that, darling?" Like, very snarky, but very like, "I'm not gonna."
She just
give
brushes
you
it off.
Right, like, I'm not gonna give you the satisfaction of getting upset. So I am predicting her actually getting upset enough that she storms out of this dinner scene, which okay, we'll see if I'm right.
I think this could be her breaking point at this point, because she said, she's talked to all of her friends about this. All of her other friends are supportive. It's just this group of ladies that isn't. But when your group of friends has slept with the same guy, you're all going to kind of wonder and go, we've seen him before. We've seen it's like your friend it's like when you have a friend that dates somebody bad and you're like, we've seen it 100 times how bad he is to you. Your other friends don't mind because they don't know. You haven't told them yet. You know, I used to do the same thing with my ex-boyfriend. I'd be so excited to have a new friend that I could tell them and be like, he's so great. Meanwhile, knowing that all the other crappy things that he had done along the way, you know, they didn't know that about him yet, so then they couldn't judge him for that.
You know what I'm wondering about this? Like, where is this going to leave the Palm Beach vacation? If she's so mad at all of them and she's the hostess and it's her boyfriend's house. Here's the thing. We haven't seen any vacation footage as teasers yet, have we? For the whole, and not even. And normally you would see that in like the major teasers at the start of the season, because that's usually where so much of the drama goes down. I'm wondering if they never even go on a vacation this year.
Which would be so weird, because they always do some sort of big vacation, but maybe they have enough, you know, going to the Hamptons or going to Jules's house or Dorinda's or whatever it is, that they don't feel like they need one. And there's been enough drama for sure.
It's been such good, genuine drama that if a trip never happened, it's not like they had to spark the drama.
I feel like there has to be a trip. I'm going to predict there is a trip, and they just didn't tease it because it's that good.
God, I hope. Have we gotten like a halfway point?
We had to have been, because today's season or episode 13, and there's only 23, correct?
There's usually like 24 episodes if you include like the 3 reunions. It's usually like a 21 episode season and then 3 reunion episodes. See, normally halfway through we get like a good long teaser for the rest of the season.
But usually the trip doesn't happen until later in the season anyway, over 2/3 the way through, 3/4 through. So
we're dying to know.
We'll find out, and everyone will be back here next week.
Yay.
Megan, where can the lovely Housewives fans find you?
Guys, I love talking with you on Twitter. Let's keep the convo going. I have so much fun sitting there on the sofa watching my shows and tweeting with you guys. You can also find me on Instagram and Snapchat, all at the same handle. It's at Megan Stecher, MEGANSTECHER.
And this is Lyndsey here. You guys can find me on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Lyndsey Wegner, or my blog, lyndsey.wegner.blogspot.com. As Megan said, we obviously love talking with you guys about the Housewives, and we look forward to seeing you next week, and hopefully there's a trip in store for us soon.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye, guys.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.